I'll let you know when Mike's live here. We're live.
Welcome to the County Joint Advisory Committee meeting today. Mike, can you give us a roll call, please?
Okay, so Warden Danielson is absent. Councillor Ryle.
I'm here.
Councillor Kennedy.
Present.
Sorry about that.
Councillor Shell.
Present.
Member Bishop is not here. Member Miners is not here. Member Levis.
Here.
And Member Baker.
Here.
Thank you.
We respectfully acknowledge that the County of Haliburton is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaty First Nations, which are Curve Lake, Rama, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Bosadé, and Georgina Island First Nations. We acknowledge a shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original Indigenous inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Can we have an adoption of the agenda, please? Mover? Pat and Lisa? All in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Hearing and seeing none. We can have the acceptance of the minutes. Now, bear in mind, it did say in the agenda that they were from 22, but we came to the conclusion that they're actually February the 24th, 21. So can we have a mover and a seconder, please? Pat and Lisa. All in favor? Carried. We don't have anything under 7. I don't believe we have anything under 8. We pretty well jumped down to new business, did we not, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what we're trying to do here today is to review the 2022 municipal election accessibility plans for the 4 municipalities that are going to be partaking in it. So at that point, I'm going to just turn it over to Mike here for a minute and let him explain to us what we're going to be doing.
Thank you. We will need a separate resolution for each of them. They are not all identical, and I know that they weren't easy to go through and find out the differences, but they aren't all identical. So we will deal with each one individually, and if you have suggestions or changes that you are suggesting be incorporated into the policies, then we can make those, and they will be incorporated into a resolution which will be forwarded to the clerk of the municipality. So really, we can just start and start with Algonquin Highlands and then pass a resolution, then move through the various policies.
Does anybody have a chance to go through the policies that were presented by the 4 municipalities? As Mike said, they're very, very similar in the way that they're done. The only, I guess, the real major difference is that 3 of the municipalities are going to be going straight with e-voting, whereas Minden Hills will be having both email and print, if I'm not mistaken. Is that pretty well the difference between them?
Yeah, I think so. I think, just generally though, from an accessibility standpoint, you should be comfortable that they have addressed, physical locations, making sure that they're accessible, making sure that the technology that's being used is as accessible as can be, that they have allowed for persons to support if that's necessary. Those are the kinds of things, that from an accessibility standpoint may affect someone's right to participate in the election or ability to. So as long as you're comfortable that those items have been addressed in each of the different policies, then you could pass a resolution saying you have no additional comments. Or if you feel like more steps should be taken, we can do that resolution as well.
Does any, Lisa?
Just a comment, Councillor Ryle, that I can attest that the locations within Minden Hills are obviously they're municipal buildings, but they are accessible.
Any challenges, Pat?
No, Algonquin Highlands looks fine. I like some of the things they've done here, and I'll be just on the general, but as far as accessibility, it looks like it's pretty standard material and they're complying with all the regulations. No issues.
Sarah? Did you have any comments?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
How about you, Phyllis?
No, I think if there's a staff, I know with the people I support, they're more intellectually challenged and they are physically challenged. So I think if there's someone there that's willing to help them through the process, that's good. That's what they need. And sometimes they'll let a support staff, as long as we're not swaying them one way or the other, come in. And I know that's happened in the past. So that's good.
And I believe the draft policies do allow for that.
That's good. As long as that's
The only the only comment that I would have, and it would apply to all four of them, is when we were doing the voting audit, we were talking to a great extent, in fact, almost exclusively about the physical presence of and condition of the various buildings. But because a lot of the voting is going to be done online and there's going to be assistance in terms of assisting people both virtually and is it possible or does it make sense to have a section in the review that talks about those kind of issues that where we may or may not have had problems assisting people in getting it going and how to improve training going down the road? Or communication perhaps, because we're talking about doorways, we've got washrooms, these are all good things. But if we have somebody that, and I don't know how to politically say this, but someone who has challenges absorbing things, have our explanations been adequate enough to get the point across? Be it from speech or hearing or something like that.
I mean, there is a section 7 that deals with voting assistance, and it says, pursuant to Algonquin Highlands Accessible Customer Service Policy, people with disabilities shall be permitted to be accompanied by a support person at the voting place. The designated support person and or friend of the voter will be administered an oath of secrecy and confidentiality. So it does deal with the situation of someone who's getting assistance. My recollection is it does also talk about staff being able to provide assistance. All the staff that are involved in the election have had accessible customer service training and specific election training to comply with the plan and ensure that persons with disabilities are served in a way that accommodates their individual needs. And that includes how to interact or communicate with persons with various types of disability, how to interact with persons with disabilities who use assistive devices and require the assistance of a support person or a service animal, how to clearly explain internet and telephone voting, what to do if a person is having difficulty accessing election information or services, and how to provide voter assistance if requested. So it does talk about those things and says that they've all received training. Anyone who's working on the election has received training in those areas.
Yeah, I guess that
think
would
my
be
point was-
my, sorry, keep going, sorry.
The only thing I was just going to make clarity was I really wasn't concerned about what we said we would do because it's very clear. And I think all four municipalities are extremely clear. I was looking at more at the follow-up from Appendix A in the voting placement audit report from each of the municipalities after the election as to did what we say we were going to do work as well as we thought it would, and are there opportunities for improvement there? That's, I wasn't talking about the content, merely is it something that should be or should not be in the voting place audit report?
I think the audit report is completed prior to, as they select the locations.
Okay.
But what we can ask is that there be follow-up to see if the if individuals with disabilities actually were confident or comfortable that the accommodations did meet their needs. Is that fair, that we ask each of the townships or municipalities to follow up with those people who accessed the assistance to make sure it was appropriate?
So you're thinking almost like if
Almost
they
like it's
came, a post audit, like an exit audit type thing, an exit
Yeah,
interview? Would that be what you're saying, Mike? You can't ask them who they vote for, that's obvious, but
No, but basically it's, was the assistance provided enough to make sure that it was a
Yes.
comfortable? Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Basically, it's a customer satisfaction survey in many ways.
yep,
Will you do that?
that's all I had.
No,
That's all I had.
okay,
Yeah, we can, I would suggest that they
that might be
do. Yeah.
best then.
Phyllis is just saying it should be done sort of just as they vote or after they voted, just to
Agreed.
find out if they are satisfied.
Mhm.
Is that the wish of the committee, that you would like that follow-up to be done with each of the plans?
I think so. Would help with the next go around.
Okay,
Lisa?
Sorry, I was muted.
Sarah?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Yeah,
And obviously, okay,
yeah, my one concern about this would be that having had to do this sort of thing with for the last couple of years now with people who are accessing technology to get into online events, we did videos, we did technical documents, we did in terms of the pandemic, we did everything, but we would have gone and stood beside them and showed them how to lock it. I actually did sessions on YouTube with people saying, this is how you sign in. And people were still confused.
Mhm.
So whatever can be done to, this is and these weren't people with any sort of cognitive disabilities. These were. So for people who are accessing any sort of new technology for the first time, there's going to be you're gonna have a lot of people asking for help. I predict.
Probably somebody older.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering to Cecil's question. I think knowing how helpful people found the support is going to be very useful.
Mike, if we were to assume that we will find the same opportunity for improvement in all 4 municipalities, does it make sense? I don't think it makes sense to repeat the conversation after each one, but can we just accept that we're going to probably recommend that to all 4?
yeah, absolutely. And I do apologize, I'm struggling a little bit with the wording, so I'll read it and I would look to the committee to tell me. So I basically said that every effort should be made to follow up with individuals who required assistance to ensure that the accommodations met the needs of individuals. Is that sufficient? And we will put that on each of the 4, but still passing an individual resolution for each, if that's okay.
Mike, do we need to mention that it should be around the time of exit from the poll as opposed to follow up by phone later? Or does that really matter at this point? Or we're just getting too thick in the weeds here?
I worry that we're giving too much direction on how they are going to run the election. I think how they how they do that is up to them, but we will encourage them to do that, you know, as close to the time they've used the services as possible.
Okay.
Maybe just a section saying suggestions, like if the. Or do you have any suggestions? Of how-
Oh, okay. So Phyllis is suggesting that we allow them like for feedback, so an opportunity to make suggestions on how the process could be improved.
Yes.
Okay, so would you like to hear what I've written?
Absolutely.
Be it resolved that Halliburton County Joint Accessibility Committee receives for information the draft 2022 municipal election accessibility plan for the township of Algonquin Highlands. And the committee makes the following comments. Every effort should be made to follow up with individuals who required assistance to ensure the accommodations met the needs of individuals and allow an opportunity for suggestions on how the process could be improved in future elections. Is that fair?
That sound good?
So if you're comfortable with that and there's no further comments, then we just a motion if the committee would have a motion.
Okay, you have a motion. Can we need a mover and a seconder to make the motion work? Lisa? And is that Phyllis back there?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. All in favor? Carry. Now, Mike, is that completes Algonquin Highlands?
Does?
Okay, so now we can move to Dysart.
Again, I think it's fairly similar to what you've seen, but I think Councillor Kennedy has noted that the buildings are accessible in Dysart. I think I saw that.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
And unless there are any other comments, we would add the same recommendation in this resolution.
That makes sense to everyone?
Yeah.
If that is it, is there any further discussion on the Dysart plan? We have a mover and a seconder to adopt this one. Pat and Lisa. All in favor? Carried. Now we'll go down to, I guess, my alma mater. And I can also say the same thing. I think accessibility wise, we have certainly got it under control. And I know, speaking for Jim Alden, that we will probably do a full inspection prior to any of this time, just to make sure that that everything is there. I know we just did one last week or the week before, and we will do it, but we'll do an extra go through it for the election.
So I would just add.
Any
the
comments
same-
on the Highlands East? No. Pretty well the same. Mike, we're going to apply the same resolution to
Yes.
change the name to protect the innocent. Can we have a motion to accept the Highlands East program? Yep, Sarah and Phyllis. All in favor? Highlands East is passed. Minden Hills. I think you've already said, Lisa, that you guys are in pretty good shape there. The big difference here again is that Minden Hills has a paper system as well as the electronic system. So do you see any need, Mike, to pursue that any further, or are we comfortable with the fact that they're both going to more or less follow the same requirements?
It's, if the members are comfortable, it's not a, yeah, I'm good.
No issues
So
here.
everybody, Mike or Pat, you're good? Everybody? Sarah and Phyllis, good?
Yeah.
So can we have a mover and a seconder to accept the Minden Hills program? Pat and Lisa. Can we have a motion to accept? Did you want to read it, Mike, or are we okay with it?
I can read it if you'd like. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Joint Accessibility Committee receives for information the draft 2022 municipal election accessibility plan for the township of Minden Hills. That the committee makes the following comment. Every effort should be made to follow up with individuals who required assistance to ensure the accommodations met the needs of individuals and allow for an opportunity for suggestions on how the process could be improved in future elections.
All in favor? Carried. And I would assume that completes 11.1, Mike.
It does.
So now we're going to review 11.2, which I'm really not sure what that's all about, but I think, Mike, you're going to explain it.
It's really just a very quick notification as much as anything. I know members of county council are aware of this, but the province has passed legislation, Bill 109, that is intended to expedite the development of housing and to ensure that the planning processes move as quickly as possible. One of the things that they are requiring is that site plan approval be delegated to staff, but it is also a requirement that site plans be approved or reviewed by the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Because there are very tight timeframes around those approvals now, or the local municipality has to refund application fees or a portion of application fees if the timelines aren't met. I just wanted to let the committee know that you may be getting a lot more meeting requests from us where, it's a very tight turnaround. We'll do our best to have the meetings in the most convenient way possible, whether they're virtual or whether they are in person. Sometimes, and not always, but sometimes it's, there's value in sort of setting out a set of plans on a table and people reviewing them or seeing a developer walk through them. But we'll do that on an ad hoc basis. We'll see what is required. And I just wanted to let you know that whereas, before we typically met quarterly or bi-monthly, it may be that we have to meet more regularly because the turnaround time on those site plan approvals has really been shortened. So we need to be able to respond to that as well. So it really wasn't a discussion as much as just I don't know, a warning that it's coming.
Lisa.
Just a comment to that then, Mike, that if we're going to be meeting after committee of the whole at 1 o'clock to have this meeting, and if it is in person, we might have a bit of a conflict with somebody like Cease, for example, or Carol or Liz, if we have to come into the office, because we have library at 3 and we are doing that via Zoom. So just be cognizant of there could be a possibility that there's a bit of a time issue.
Great point. And that's it, sir.
That's it? All right, so then the next meeting will be whenever Mike tells us that we need to meet. Is that about it, Mike?
Yeah, it's a powerful position really, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, but you handle it so well.
I'll try to read.
Okay, with that in mind, can we have a motion to adjourn? Mover and seconder? We got Phyllis and we have Pat.
Moved
All in
by-
favor?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, moved by member Baker, seconded by Councillor Kennedy, be it resolved that the May 11th, 2022 meeting of the Haliburton County Joint Accessibility Committee now adjourned.
All in favor? Done. Well, thank you very much, guys. And Mike, you walked us through this, which I thought was awesome. And I guess now we'll just be, we'll be waiting for you to tell us when our services are needed.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. See you at 3, Cease.
Bye-bye.